Hello, everyone. My name is Mrs. Boone, and I am your child's second grade teacher for the school year. Thank you for joining us as we get to know a little bit more about what your child is doing throughout the week and some important information that I think you guys should have. First up, we have our schedule here. We try to stick to it as best as we can, but sometimes things change and we might have to swap things in and out for one another, but that's okay. For the most part, we do have a pretty set routine though. Our morning work, we'll have something every morning for them to be working on that they'll be doing. Right after that morning work time, we will always either go into our character formation project lesson, religion lesson, or we'll have chapel time. Our first block in the morning, after that will be language arts, where we will be doing our reading, grammar, things like that. Then we will have our snack time. We have snack every single day, so really encourage to make sure your child is packing a snack, a healthy snack for themselves, bringing that water bottle to school so that they can refuel and energize themselves during that time. We also take some time to run around outside and get some energy out. When we come back in, we'll either have writing, religion, math, or Spanish time. Lunch and recess will always be at the same time throughout the week. We will get ready around 11:20, and then we get down there 11:30, and that recess time after lunch will end at 12:30. So lunch is 11:30 to 12, recess 12 to 12:30. When we come in, we usually do math, except on Tuesdays we have our music block, and on Fridays our art block. Art with me. And then after that, on Mondays, we have choir with Mrs. Leet, art with Mrs. Burmester is on Tuesdays. We will always do spotlights on Wednesdays and library time on Thursdays. Friday, we have just a really big chunk of art with me in the classroom. Our last recess of the day can start anywhere from 1:50 to 2 o'clock, just kind of depends on the day, and ending at either 2:15 or 2:20. And then finally, at the very end of the day, we will either be doing social studies or science. It just depends on what we're learning about. We will never do them at the same time, meaning if we're working in a social studies unit like we are now with maps, we're going to finish that before we start our first science unit. And then that bus bell at the end of the day will ring at 2:55, and we get ready for dismissal. For our character formation project, each week we will have a lesson that is connected with a virtue and a Bible story. You can see the 7 different virtues that we go over there, and they do a really great job of tying them in with the Bible stories and then making it very applicable for the kids to use in the real world. We have some really great discussions in here about that. For our readers workshop, we will do either whole group or small group settings. Usually I like to start as whole group. We talk about a book, we discuss certain reading skills or strategies, and then I'll break them off into small group and individual work where they're working on phonics skills, vocabulary words, or doing guided reading with me. Thursdays, it hasn't started yet, but coming up shortly, Thursdays, we will always do our vocabulary lesson. So from the book that we read that week, I usually have a worksheet where they practice writing sentences and understanding different parts of speech and using those words that they have just learned. And that will be a homework page that will come home on Thursdays, due back on Fridays. For our workshop model, also, we will do lots of reading, of course. We love to read. Mondays is usually when I do my big teacher read aloud. Guided reading is when I'm taking small groups with me and we're reading and talking about books that are for them as readers based off, their levels and where I think they should be. We will do independent reading a lot. I think this is a big year for second graders because they kind of shift from learning to read to reading to learn, and they really grasp that love and joy for reading. They love to do buddy reading when they get to pair up with a friend and just dive into a book and just enjoy that together. And then also we will be listening to books on Epic from time to time. For our reading assessments, we follow the Fontenes benchmark assessment. This is when I will read with your child or your child reads the book to me, and I keep a running record while they're reading. At the end, I will ask them comprehension questions, and then we figure out where your child should be based off of an independent level where they can read on their own, instructional where I should be teaching them, and kind of those hard levels where they're challenging, and that's where I'm trying to get them to. This helps us determine the just right books for the kids when they're picking books for themselves and also when they're working with me. If you have questions about your child's reading, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to discuss those things with you. We can always talk about it in person. And if there's any concerns that I think need to be discussed, I will reach out to you as well. For spelling, our differentiated spelling list given at the end of each week. We will always, unless it's a school week where we don't have a Friday, we'll do our pre-test on that last day of the week, usually Fridays. After the pre-test, when we're grading it, any word that they get correct, they get to replace with a word that they choose from a list. And any word that is incorrect from their spelling, they will just keep that word on their list. And it's always out of 10 with a challenge word, but the challenge word is always just for fun. Then after that, I will staple their spelling list to a piece of pink paper. That's their spelling homework, and it is due the following Thursday. With the pink homework, it will come home and on Friday in their homework folder, and they can bring it back to me any day before Thursday, but that's what what your child's spelling words are and what they will be assessed on. I will make sure to go over the spelling page also pretty closely with your child, just because it can kind of be confusing at first. So if there's ever any questions, they can always bring it back to me the next day and I can help them with it in class. Then on Mondays when they come in, they will always write their spelling words in their planner. So that's another location that they will have if they need to use it for studying. And then they will always put those spelling words also on Seesaw. They will take a picture, record themselves reading the words. So now you have a digital platform to use for their spelling. Spelling homework, again, we send it home on Friday, stapled to their spelling list. It's that pink piece of paper. It's due back Thursday, can be turned in any day before, and then I will grade it and return it in their Friday folders. Spelling and dictation tests on Thursdays. They will always take the test. Usually it's with me. If for some reason Mrs. Jonas needs to do anything one-on-one or in a small group, that's a possibility as well. The dictation sentences will show application of grammar and spelling, and it's usually with the skills that we're working on for that week. So I'm not going to throw any grammar skills that they wouldn't be familiar with. And I always make sure before these tests that we go over it as a class on my classroom board. I keep those helpful hints and advice up there, and I help them throughout the test. I want them to feel successful on their spelling test. So if they're coming home and you're getting a little bit worried about maybe all the markups or things they're getting wrong, again, I just ask, please be patient with them. Be patient with me. They're trying really, really hard, and they're going to get it. I promise. I've seen these kiddos pick it up pretty quickly. For grammar skills, are going to be modeled and reviewed through mentor sentences. What that just means is we read a book together. There's then a sentence that's chosen from that book, and we break that sentence apart into all the different parts of speech, and then they practice recognizing them and then creating their own sentences. Review pages will be done throughout the week, whether it be every week, whether it be mentor sentence or a different grammar page where they will be assessed. And then they will also come home graded in your child's Friday folder. We try to do them every week. Sometimes it might be every 2 weeks or so, but you will see them in their folder. Writer's workshop, we will write every day, whether it's writing time or not. Definitely encouraging the kiddos to write. So usually it's a mini lesson modeled to them to demonstrate writing behaviors. They're then given a task to work on while they write independently. And they choose their own topics when they're writing within our units of study. So our first one that we're going to hit here is narratives. Then I'll probably touch on fictional. And then towards the end of the year, we do our informational, opinion, poetry. I have found that when I kind of just leave it open for the kiddos to write about whatever they want, they love writing time. That's when you see a lot of their creativity come out. For mathematics, fact sheet. Some days we're going to do this in class, and some days we might send it home in your child's homework folder as a piece of homework. Usually I would use it as a warm-up or a morning worksheet, and if it's not finished and I feel like I want them to work on it more, that's when it would come home. But some days it might not come home because we just do it in class. The math lessons, after they are taught, the students complete side A at school with me. And then some days, depending on time, I might let them work on their homework side. Just kind of depends. It doesn't happen every day, but every now and then. But side B is always a reflection of side A. So if there's something you don't understand, you can always flip the paper back over and kind of see how they mirror up, and hopefully that can help you out. But the lesson sheet will come home, and then they always need to come back to school the next day to be turned in. For their math assessments, every 5th lesson, beginning with lesson 10, we will have a fact assessment and written written assessment. I always read these written assessments to the kiddos because they can be pretty wordy, so I want to make sure that they understand the questions that are being asked. But I do not put the scores in for the fact assessment into Blackbaud. Usually we're asked to do it on a time, and I don't like to time the kiddos because everyone's brains work at different rates. So usually I don't put those scores into the grade book, but you will see them come home. Finally, for math, we have challenge work. Occasionally, they will get a challenge work piece of paper. It's 100% optional, and you'll know it's challenge work because it will say challenge work up at the top of their paper. One thing with math I've noticed is for second graders from now until around Christmas time, a lot of it is a review from first grade. So if they're coming home and if they're saying, math is way too easy for them, or you're thinking it's way too easy, again, be patient because we need to make sure we have confidence in those areas before we move on to the new concepts that are taught after Christmas, where they will see definitely some things that didn't see in first grade. In science, we use the FOSS curriculum. The topics we're going to cover are solids and liquids, pebbles, sand, and silt, and then plants and insects. For social studies, we use Scott Forsman curriculum and other supplemental materials. Topics may include maps, people, and places in history. That will follow the famous American reports in February, and then the Christmas around the world around Christmas time, which that's the country report time, and then economy. We do a big economy unit in March. For religion and memory work, each week we will take a day to focus on the memory verse. Usually that's going to be on Mondays. We'll talk about a story from the Bible. We will do a lesson from Character Formation Project and a written response to that project taught that week. It just kind of varies on what we're doing. For example, this week on Monday and Tuesday, we really spent time diving into our memory verse because it was a really, really long one. And I wanted to make sure the kids really understood it. And then the next day we talked about our character formation project. And then we opened up our Bibles and we found Genesis 1, which is the Bible story we're talking about with creation. And then tomorrow we're probably going to be doing a written response for our character formation project. So it just kind of varies day to day, but we're definitely getting a big fill of religion here at CCLS. For memory work, those verses will be sent home on Friday in the newsletter. You always see it up at the top. And then on Mondays when they come in, I always have a strip that has their memory work on it at their desk, and they glue it into their planner. They will always make sure that that is then taken as a picture on Seesaw so you have it at home as well. Students can give or recite their verse to me any day by Friday, but it can be done any day before. It just has to be done by Friday. A big thing is if your child is missing on a Friday, they're absent. If you know they're not going to be there, they still need to get their memory work done. So if you know they're going to be gone, have them do it beforehand. If you know that they were sick, make sure they come to me and give me their memory work the following week, because otherwise it goes into a 0 in the grade book, and that can really affect their memory grades. Because memory work is graded on a scale of 10. I'm not a huge stickler on making sure they have every word correctly. It matters to me more about if they understand what the verse is talking about. Another thing to mention about memory work is when they're saying it on Seesaw or when they're saying it to me on Monday mornings, reciting from their planner, that doesn't count as them reciting their memory work for their grade. Those are just practice times. So for me, reciting it is they come up to me and they don't need anything in front of them when they're doing their memory work. Communications, very big on it. I will always send the weekly newsletter home, sent on Fridays. This will include upcoming events, what the kids are learning about, what their memory work is, the spelling rule. That's a huge one because on their spelling homework, they have to write down what the spelling rule is. So it's right there, but I will also have that in the classroom for when they're here. Any other important information that I think you need to find. You will always see the newsletter physically on that paper copy, and then I will also post it as an announcement on Blackbaud and also as an announcement on Seesaw. So again, Seesaw, there's reminders sent out through messaging system, and you can chat me privately through there. I'm totally fine if you want to communicate that way. Or there's always email, and then my phone number was given at the back to school visits, but I also keep them on the newsletter. I'm good, text or call. But if I don't respond, just know I'll get to you when I can. I'm just busy at that time. Before we move on, we're almost done here. I just wanted to mention a few things. As your kiddos are bringing home homework or graded work from the class, you will notice up at the top there's either a plus and then a check or a check and then a plus. That means that I or Mrs. Jonas together, we looked at those papers, we made sure they were nice and neat. They were completed. They had the correct answers, and we sent them home. They were good. They are not recorded as grades. However, when you see papers that are coming home out of a point system, that's how you know that those papers, that work, is being taken down as a grade and then put into Blackbaud for your child's overall grade on the report cards. That's a big one for me. If you're not sure about it, please ask me so I can clarify that more for you. But you should be able to tell the difference between work that's graded and work that we check over, but we just don't put it into the grading system. That's all I have for you guys. I'm so excited to continue to work with you this year. I have just grown to love these kids so much already in the first full week of school, and I can't wait to see us grow and become closer as the year goes on. Again, relationships with you, I'm so excited to further grow those as well. And if you have any questions, email, you can seesaw me, whatever you need, I'm here for you guys. So thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Thank you guys for listening. And that's all I have. So goodbye. Going to stop.